Gregg Gonzales.
Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome to the space in between.
I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
I know this feels like I feel like I've already done a couple of podcasts with you, just in personal conversations inside of nOMad and everything like that. But I was reading a beautiful book called The Speakeasy Method Story and
Hmm.
written by you.
I was just about to say, what a great title. That
Yeah, in case
sounds like me.
Yeah, in case people didn't already know. And I just want to dive right into that because you said something on page 8 that was like, yes, this is my book. This is my person. Like I know I connect with you so deeply. You speak my language. And you were saying that most people don't need a coach to perform. They need a guide to unlock and uncover what's hiding underneath the surface. And I want to hear more about that.
Well, I think in retrospect to that statement, I probably would have changed the word coach to expert because
Mm,
that was really what came to me after publishing the book was I had tried so long to be this quote unquote expert in storytelling and human connection through stories and even just guiding people through the process of writing and publishing a book. And I've been very much abandoning this idea of being an expert. What feels more aligned to me, and I think that this is why I think you and I align energetically, is this feeling of being a guide and a mentor and someone who is just, accompanying with somebody, but not someone who's the all knowing, all, you know, answer person. I just feel anytime I'm working with someone who's trying to just uncover their story, has questions about what it would be to actually get their story in front of their audience, I'm just guiding. I'm listening and then kind of asking where do they want to go and then showing them kind of what that path would look like. So that's really where I was coming from. I still think coaches are wonderful guides, but I think in speaking of that language of the sentence, I probably felt more like I was trying to be somebody that I didn't want to be, and that's the expert.
mm.
So I don't know if that made sense or not.
Well, honestly, why it like captured my attention was the word coach because
Okay.
I feel like I've been labeled as coach and I've been actually repelled by it. And I've sat with it for so long, like, why don't I want to be a coach? Because and it wasn't just because everybody else is a life coach or a business coach or whatever, but I really resonate with the word guide, like
Hmm.
you. And you put it into it, coaches for performance. And that's really like yes, there's a performance to whatever it is that you're doing and showing up, but it's really what I'm interested in is the depth and what you get in a guide, like you were saying, like uncovering
Yeah.
those hidden gems and digging in. So I actually love that you had the word coach.
Well, and I think now that you've said it that way, I
Yeah.
can see it taking two forms of coach for me of having a coach who's like a batting coach for a Major League Baseball player.
Hmm.
These could be former players or people who either had an injury, but they just know the craft of hitting a ball really, really well.
Yeah.
It could be a singing coach. It could be someone who is just helping someone open up their diaphragm and to really tap into certain notes and octaves. So I think from that angle, you're right that a coach really is about helping you perform, showing up, in the way that you want to show up, whether it's an art form, whether it's a sport, a skill, or some kind. And I think that with this work, and I would say your work as well, it's not necessarily about performance and showing up. Like you already know how to show up. It's just how do you show up in the right setting to tap into providing an experience that people are going to get the most out of you and your knowledge and what you bring in. And I just feel like a guide just makes more sense to me that I'm not trying to change you. I'm not trying to change who you are. I want to enhance what's already inside of you. And so for me, I just felt guide aligns more energetically than coach. I still believe, so I actually have embraced the idea of the word coach to be more of someone who helps transform. It's about transformation. So someone who seeks a coach to me it's all about change. It's someone who's here and I want to be here. Whatever coach you are. And that could be performative, it could be spiritually, it could be just someone who is really just trying to tap into the best aspects of somebody. You can call it a coach, you can call it a guide, you can call it a teacher, mentor. So I kind of have now meshed that into this whole idea of helping people transform. And so for me, that transformation is through the inner story, bringing that story to life, and then whatever that story can become, a book, a podcast, a coaching program, the next chapters of your life that you now are laying out, like, I need to change my life. That's a story. Let's write that out. So, but the idea of guide, I don't know, feels more in alignment with who I am.
So, which brings me to who are you?
Well, I had asked a question recently to my network online. I'm in this phase now of really focusing on an identity, the story of yourself, and your question of who are you. I would say stripping away all the titles, all the labels, guide, father, I guess you could say from my previous life, manager, teacher, all these things. I think what settles most with me is who I am. And this might seem a little heady, but I just feel awakened. I feel like aware. Who I am is someone who is observant to what's happening around me, to who I'm with, to the things that I'm doing, to my innermost thoughts and feelings. So I think who I am at my core is someone who has woken up. Not always, I have my moments that I definitely feel like, wake up, I need someone to throw some water in my face. But I feel like at my core that I've done so much work on myself to just stay awake and to be just in awareness of everything, the good, the bad, the ugly of things. So I would say who I am, and I would throw in there compassionate, kind, understanding, curious, seeking, expansive, but also vulnerable, scared, intimidated, all of the things that just kind of mesh into that. But I would say at the nucleus of all of those things is awareness. Like, I can be fully aware of my deficiencies as well as my enhancements, the things that I would say that I want to spend more time in and those positive energies, but I also am embracing the things that I'm not so good at. And to me, that centers around awareness. So
Thank you for sharing that and not giving me your elevator pitch. I asked you because I knew you wouldn't and you would go there. But oftentimes, when we're on the podcast and I
yeah.
ask, like, who are you? And I get but usually people on our show don't answer it like that. They answer
Okay, good.
the depth of that,
That
which
was totally unscripted.
no,
So
I know. I love it. I didn't pay you to say that at all. But so, and I know, and honestly, you shared a lot in that. But one of the things is that what you do in this world is you pull people's stories out of them
mhm.
and help them in that, like we were speaking about earlier, of helping them through that transformation. And I'd love to just hear a little bit more, not just what it is that you're doing, but why and like how you got to that. Like, how did you get to pull people's stories out of them?
So I think from as long as I can remember, there has been this gravitational pull that people come to me and feel safe. They feel like here's someone who is awake, who will pay attention to me, who will give me attention. And I mean, that goes to strangers, that goes to friends, that goes to just, I mean, I can think of countless examples of times where like, do you have like a welcome mat in front of you? Like people just tend to just gravitate and come and then they share. Just like this openness that I feel like I'm creating kind of this welcome space for people. And it wasn't like just like, it was just like people would come for no reason. But I always found that like when I would present myself in a way that showed, and again, I wasn't aware of this when I was young, of just an open curiosity about people. There's an energy I think people can sense that it's almost like a little, like a radio wave that they're like, oh, that he's tapped in. I want to venture into that a little bit. So I would say that throughout my entire work career, through adulthood and everything, there's always been moments where I feel like that connection with people has been present. And that's always been something that's gotten me through to be successful in management roles, in starting a new business, in meeting new people and networking, and just having like discovery calls with people who are just curious about me, because then it turns into this curiosity about them. And so I think that that's probably the biggest thing, is that curiosity and attention are probably my two biggest superpowers, that I would say I want to know you and I want to hear you. And I would just say that cultivating that, strengthening those two traits about myself has been something that I don't know how to turn it off. You know, I mean, it doesn't just stop when my work is done, when I'm working with someone's story. I've had countless situations where just giving people that space of asking a question and just listening has been some of the most profound moments of my days. I'm in awe of people half the time, of just hearing what they have to say in that full-throated, open, honest, vulnerable, unscripted, where people sometimes will be like, I've never said that out loud. I don't know where that came from. And I'm just blessed and grateful that I was able to experience that. So I think it's something that for me started very, very, very young. And it took me a long time to figure out this is a skill. This is something that, you know, I may have talked to you before about this concept of ikigai, you know, your reason for being. And so tapping into those first two questions of what do you love to do and what are you really good at? Well, I love to learn about people. So I love to learn and ask questions, but I also am really good at listening. And so tying those two things together into the work that I do, I think has been a natural fit. And I jokingly say to people, like, it's shocking that I get paid to do what I do, because this isn't work. It's pure joy and enjoyment to just sit with someone and give them that space to share.
And I know you've had many lives, and I'm just wondering, I mean, that sounds like this has been a story of yours throughout your life, listening to people, being curious, giving them their attention. But was there a light bulb moment that went off for you and say, ah, this is what my purpose is?
100%. So I had spent about 18 plus years as a massage therapist, very much about human connection and listening intuitively, and you know, all the things that go into making that safe, nurturing space a transformative experience for the person who's receiving. Over time, I wasn't able to do it because of my carpal tunnel that I developed from just overwork. So when I was in this transition of figuring out what's next after my career in massage ended, I started experimenting with this idea of asking questions and sitting and listening. I didn't know what that was, but it was something that I found nourishing for me, but consequently nourishing for the person on the other end who was being interviewed, I guess you could say. Didn't know what it was, wasn't really about storytelling, definitely wasn't about writing a book. But it was with one of the people I was working with on kind of a sample interview question and answer sort of a session. She was a former client of mine in massage. And we went through just a stream of questions about her life. And it was like a roller coaster ride of emotions. It'd be like hilarity and laughter, and then it would just be tears and sadness and just, you know, heartbreak, but then also just the realization of things that she hadn't really spoken out loud about before. Nothing that was forced. It just naturally evolved. And so as that whole session was finished, I remember her reaching over and touching my arm and saying, "It just dawned on me what you're doing here." And I was like, "What am I doing?" And she said, "When I would be on your table, without saying a word, like a Ouija board, your hands just knew where to go. You knew exactly where my knots and my pains and my aches were, and you could just magically take them away." And I felt like with this time together, and we were maybe like at a Starbucks for an hour, you just knew exactly where to go energetically with your questions and just your attention, that you were able to take the knots and pains and aches away from my heart that had been stuck inside of me. And she just said, this is no different. You're just you're touching me in a different way, but in the same way, maybe even more powerfully. So that was my aha moment. I'm like in tears as she's sharing. She was emotional. And it was just like, I just found the link between the two works, you know? So it is, it's still about connection, but it's just, I would almost say like it was a message from God saying, you've literally touched thousands of lives physically in the span of your massage career. Great work, well done. Now it's time to touch more people, but differently. And so I just feel like it was just an evolution of connection work that I had loved before, and now it's evolved into what I do now.
Okay, so that's so interesting that you're sharing this because I'm hearing it. And of course, I know what you do, but I was sitting there as if I were you and thinking, oh, that would have been a sign to go to get my therapy degree and become a social worker or something like that,
Yeah.
because that's about listening. So I'm curious to know a little bit more about that. Like, how did you get from that moment in Starbucks to, oh, I'm going to help people write their book and their story?
I mean, I will say I went through a bit of imposter syndrome of like, who am I to sit and perform therapeutic storytelling work for people? And so I went through the whole, you know, what do I get certified in? Do I need to get additional schooling? You know, it was like I felt like I needed a legitimate base foundation in order to build this next iteration of myself. You know, I went to massage school and I did extensive training for that. Now I'm just coming up with this new concept of sitting with people and asking them questions. And it was like, what does this evolve into in order to make it legit? And, you know, to be truthful, Phoebe, I think that since Speakeasy really started, I'd say it started in 2018, 2019, came to full fruition during COVID. I was doing a lot of experimentation online, just meeting people virtually. There's always been this lingering voice in my head going, is this a thing? Like, is this really like, do people get this? And I think that it's only been till recently. I mean, it's literally been 6+ years that I'm just now waking up to the fact that I don't need a certification on my wall. I don't need a diploma. I don't need anyone to tell me that this is meaningful. I've got hundreds and hundreds of people I've worked with over the years who are my diploma, my certification, my proof, you know, to see the transformation that took place, whether it's in person or online. So I've had to remind myself that just being with somebody, giving them that space, that safe, nurturing, open space, just meet me here. And then just ask them a really, really good question. And it just opens doors that you have no idea where it's going to go. I can't think of any school, any program that could teach me what I know now. If anything, I now, with the book, I want to teach others how to do what I do. So what started off with this feeling of imposter syndrome now feels like I want to guide people on how to not only connect to themselves and do this work with you, but now sit with a partner, a spouse, a child, a coworker, a stranger, and help transform their life just in that moment together. And I feel like I have the tools to do that now. So I've gone from illegitimate imposter to now I'm just like, I just want to share this magic. Because it's really is. It's so simple, but I feel like because of technology and just everyone is just in such a rush these days, like to just be with someone and to have just true conversation and connection is a lost art. And so
Mhm.
I really want to get back to that.
Oh, I love that so much. And I just want to speak to that, what you said. I don't need the certificate on the wall because you have thousands of people that you've transformed, and that's what you have on your wall,
Yeah.
essentially, right? I love that because I think so many people who are healers, who are coaches, who are guides, who are whatever, people who are helping people through transformation, we think that we need to get the next certification, the next modality, and we have all these, certifications on our wall. But what happens, and I noticed this through my art career too, as a dancer, was people thought, oh, I have to go to college to get this, but it was like, if you're going to teach in a university just because you have a certification or your master's, but you didn't actually do it, like you didn't go out and like audition and hustle and experience, getting your feet all ripped apart, and like
Hmm.
that to me is so much more valuable than just what's the piece of paper that's up on the wall. So I
I
love
mean, I will give all credit to programs that do teach and elevate people to go from where they are to where they want to be. And there's plenty of coaching programs and probably
yeah.
programs that do similar work that I do. But to your point, I think that being more kind of in the trenches, figuring it out on my own, and kind of allowing just the energy of that moment to guide me and shape and form me. I mean, I've done so much as far as like takeaways after a session of what worked, what stood out, where could I have been better? So it's almost like I'm kind of I'm constantly trying to just, be 1% better each time, show up 1% stronger, more present. And I just think that through my own studies of just, philosophers, certain spiritual practices and teachers and guides, like there's so many things that relate to what I'm doing. And I would say any coach or anyone who's a guide who wants to help people, there's so much available out there that you can learn from, but then it's how you apply a little bit of this, a little bit of that to kind of turn it into your own secret formula. And that's really what the care model is. It's nothing revolutionary, but connection, attention, reflection, and expression, those just kind of came to me just through my ongoing learning of other practitioners and spiritual guides and people who I admire. So I think that there is something to be said about education, but I really do think that at the end of the day, it's about what you're applying and seeing what fits. I've done many story projects with people who are coaches who learn their program, but they're like, but I want to make it my own. But I feel like I'm abandoning what I learned, and should I? And I'm like, why would you restrict yourself? Be your own person, Don't feel like you have to stay in a little box. And for
Yeah.
me, I don't do well living in a box. So
Right.
yeah, so to me, it's about growth, it's learning, it's just getting better. But I had to build my own confidence in my own self and my work through the doing of the work.
Mhm.
And I could read, I mean, I've got a library of books that if I just read them, but nothing's being applied, I mean, that's just a waste of time.
Yeah.
So to me, it's the application of the work and just fine tuning it through trial and error.
Yes, I 100% agree. It's the knowing, gathering the information, and then applying and
And then
integrating.
applying it. Yeah.
And then I love what you said too of like making it your own, right? Like you can go to a very whatever certification or teacher training, and I'm guessing that there is a, like you said, you have a care method. And I want to hear more about that because I'm curious to know, like, how do you teach intuition?
Yeah. So to me, this idea of care is a combination of just if someone were to say, what is the speakeasy method? It literally just came to me as this acronym of care
Mhm.
and kind of piecing it together and thinking about it as kind of a trend, moving from one to another. So really this idea of intuition for me is it has to start with curiosity. And it could be a curiosity of a person, but let's just kind of bring care into like the individual, because I'm always one to teach it from a micro level to a macro, you
Mhm.
know. So what's going on with me? Okay. We'll use today as an example. I did not have a good night's sleep and I woke up with a bad dream. And the old Greg would have just stayed in that swirl and just, I'm tired, I'm angry, I don't know what this dream meant, and just been constantly and just kind of stuck in it, right? Curiosity for me is like, what is this about? Why am I angry? Why am I tired? What does this mean? And that could just take the form of just sitting with it and reflecting. That's kind of jumping ahead to reflection, but it's just allowing it to just kind of sit. And that's the listening part. Now that's the attention, putting the attention on the question, and then reflecting on, okay, maybe I shouldn't have had my phone next to me and watch it before I went to bed, or having the thoughts that I didn't meditate before I went to sleep. You start reflecting, and then that expression finally comes out of, okay, it's the answer. It could be like it's setting the course of how to have a better night's sleep, to remind myself that I get to restart again tonight. So I literally go through care on probably a continuous basis throughout the day. But when it comes to working with people, it starts with a question and then just stopping and pausing and listening, and no distractions, of just, you have my full attention. Then that leads to a reflection of just them feeling like he's with me, he understands me. I might have a follow-up question or some kind of a personal anecdote going, oh, I've felt that before too. And then that expression, that's like when the voice really opens up. And that's like their artistry. It's like people, when they finally feel that sense of expression, it's like you couldn't have written that any better. I've had people answer a question and spend 30 minutes just talking, and just it's like the floodgates open up. And all that came because it started with the question, listening, the reflection that they felt within themselves with me, and then it just comes pouring out. So that's kind of just a very long explanation of care, but it has to start with you. And how can you apply that to yourself, whether it's something you're struggling with, something you're manifesting, like, why is this important? Why do I want this? I think we all have questions that we ask ourselves, but we don't sit and give it the attention that it needs. And it could just take a few minutes, to be like, oh, and that expression could be a journal, it could be a meditation, it could be speaking it out loud with a friend. So that can take many forms, but I think it has to start with the question and the listening right at the get-go. So that to me is something that I do just naturally in my work, and I want to teach people just the awareness of care. Like, are you giving yourself care today? Is something that I'm really wanting to promote and really emphasize. The book is a byproduct of what care is about. So to me, the end goal is not publishing. If that's a goal for you, great, I can help you get there. But at the end of the day, I want you to know yourself, know your story through this process of connection. And that's really what care is. It's just a pathway to strengthen connection.
I'm laughing and smiling because as you're talking about care, a few years ago, I have my own acronym for what you just speak to. It's play, pause,
Okay.
listen, activate how you want to feel, and then express by saying a full body yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's exactly, I
Like,
mean,
oh my God.
the idea of it is exactly that. And that's why, like, care is not my own. It just happened to fit one day. I was on a walk. I'm like, curiosity, attention, reflection, expression, care. And it was just like,
I
was literally just like, it just came to me one day.
love amazing. I
Yeah.
love
But
it.
play is exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's so fun. But I'm curious about the process of what it looks like when people work with you when they have this story. Are they coming to you like, I have this story inside of me and I need to get it out, and Greg, help pull it out of me, or what I was reading in your book was like there were actually a couple of stories where specifically men, they were like coming in with their arms crossed and like, oh, I don't have anything to say. And then all of a sudden they were opening up and
Um,
sharing, light bulbs were going off. So I'm just curious to see like what is that? Who comes to you and like what's the magic that's unfolding during that time?
this is why I love meeting people for the first time, because I meet people and they're like a box of chocolates because I don't know what I'm going to get.
Oh,
And
yay, Forrest.
I'm seriously, I am living Forrest Gump's life. So I, there is definitely not a one size fits all. I definitely have a lot of people who come in with this idea of a book that they've been told you should have been written, that should have been written years ago. I just met with someone who says, my daughter is egging me to write a book about me because she wants to know about my life. And I'm like, so do you not talk to her? She's like, I talk to her, but she knows there's things that I have not shared. And I know it would make a really powerful book, but it was almost kind of like, I don't want to allow my ego to be like, well, I'm going to write a book about my life. And I said, but who would this book be for? Is it to sell millions of copies and to turn it into a Netflix show? She's like, no. I'm like, it's for your daughter. Like, isn't that meaningful enough? So I'm always trying to get to the why. You know, the desire to write a book is great. I've got an amazing story. My friends are telling me to write a book. That's great. They might even have a title. They might even have begun writing. But I want to understand what's the purpose. And most people don't necessarily know that. And so part of my work with them is to understand the story, but to really get to the heart, like what is the engine that's going to drive this ship? Because if it's a story of crisis, a story of trauma, a story of resilience and courage, we all need that. We all need those stories. But for you, what is the purpose? 9 times out of 10, it comes into it's for me. I'm writing it for me to get this finally out. So people come in with an idea. They come in with some scraps of paper. They've got books of journals that they're like, there's sections in here, and all of it can be used. So my approach is always, I just meet people where they're at. I can customize a speakeasy story project based on where you're at with nothing. I've helped people who are literally like, I've written the entire book, but I don't know how it ends. So I help them complete that last chapter, and then maybe even expand the chapters that are there. So I would say that my work takes on the role of more like a consultant, because it's not really like a one size fits all. Anymore now, I just want to help people. I want to help take what's inside of them and get it out. And I remind people that if they have nothing written, I'm not a writer. I'm the last person to ever write a book. I don't even know if my story means anything. You know, it's all this stuff they're telling themselves. I just remind them all, the book is already written. It's already in you. My job would be to get it out of you. So I think of it as like story excavation. And I used to think of it as like spiritual archaeology. And that my questions are like the tools that I use to help dig for the gold that comes out from the surface. So, and I love that analogy because I just see people walking around with treasure boxes of stories. And I'm just bringing in questions to be like, let's see what this key opens up. Let's see where this goes. And then after a while, like, it takes very little effort for those keys to start unlocking doors. You know, they start seeing the importance of their story. They see the purpose. They see who is going to be impacted by this. I'm such a big believer in the power of stories and just how they transform your life and the lives of those who get to experience it. The end product, the book, the podcast, the Netflix show, the TED Talk, those are all deliverables. That's how the story gets to where you want it to go. I'm focused on the story itself.
Yeah.
And then the possibilities of what it can become. So that's also part of my job, is to expand your breadth of it. It doesn't just have to be contained in these pages. You know, what if you spoke about your story? What if you did a series of videos online and turned it into a YouTube like actually create chapters of your book in videos.
Mm.
Oh, I could do that. So I'm like, there's a multitude of ways to share, but it's the story that I'm just trying to help excavate.
I love that. You're an excavator of story. I
I've been
love
called a story doula,
Yeah, love
because I had a woman who, this was early on, and she's like, it's like birth. Like, I feel like it's painful and it's yucky and it's messy and it's all over the place, but it's beautiful. And like, she just talked about like this was like a birthing experience. It's like getting it out.
Yes.
So I've used that terminology like when I've spoken with like female perspective authors.
Yeah.
Men, they would probably be like, well, that doesn't really resonate with me. So I have to be careful with that one. But it really is. It to me, I just am firmly believing that if people are given the space, and when I say space, it's that attention and safety and trust, that's where magic occurs.
Hmm.
One of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite philosophers, George Washington Carver, said, anything will give up its secrets if you love it enough.
Mm.
And to me, that's what attention is. It's just love. It's compassion, it's listening, it's understanding, it's non-judgment. It's coming into a session with someone as just a complete open container to pour into,
Yeah.
but not just to hold it. It's to let's look at it, let's examine it. Maybe there's more questions to uncover, but it's to be with someone in their story. And
Hmm.
I've heard some stories that just would break your heart, but I've also heard some stories that just it healed them literally in front of me as I'm watching them. So that's the transformation that is witnessed both physically, energetically, spiritually, that when people get a chance to speak, and to me, speaking is no different than writing. It's, sitting down at a computer or pen to paper, speaking it, it's just your form of expression. It's
Yeah.
easier for me to speak my thoughts than to write them down. So that's why speakeasy is called speakeasy. It's like, let's just speak it out. Let's just talk it out.
Mhm.
So that's really at the end of the day, it's just helping take that load that we carry of our story and taking it out and looking at it. It's not abandoning it. It's literally just let's unload it for a minute and
Mm.
having someone to kind of examine it with you, make sense of it, and almost have no attachment to it, but to say, oh, here's what we could do with this. So
Yeah.
that's what's fun, is helping people see beyond themselves. They see their story as this, and then it
Mhm.
turns into this. That's so great to be a part of that.
Yeah. When you were speaking about the writing versus the speaking and the speakeasy, that's interesting because I've shifted from writing in my journals. I mean, I wrote in my journal since I was like whatever age you start writing. I had the little journal with the lock and I put it and had the
Hmm.
key over here. And I had all the way up until just recently, I have books and books and books underneath my bed and in other areas. And after I wrote my book, I actually did a burning of some of them because I didn't want
Mm.
to carry those stories anymore. But what shifted for me just recently is my journaling is my voice notes in the morning because I don't know, there's something more about that. It's speaking it and bringing the story out
Yep,
and that vibration, but it's also like it's bringing it to this world, but it's not heavy. Like I almost feel like the writing of it creates this heaviness, the physicality of physically writing it
for
because
sure.
it's getting out in your body, but there's something about the speaking that comes out and it's just seen and heard and then it can also dissolve and transform a lot quicker than rather than like you have how many times have you looked back at a thing you're like oh my God I wrote that so
Hmm.
yeah
Well,
there's
I resonate with that because I get asked all the time. They're like, "Oh, you must be an amazing writer." I'm like,
yeah
I've hated writing my entire life. I was never a good writer. I was the one who would turn his research paper in and it would just be, make it bleed, teacher. And it would just be red mark, red mark, red mark, because
oh
I didn't know how to express myself in writing. I was
mhm,
writing from here. I wasn't writing from here. But when I talk, when you ask me a question about me that I'm really, I guess you could just say passionate about, knowledgeable about, maybe even just curious myself, it's easier for me to express authentically with my voice. And some people, will say I'm the opposite. They can fill a journal and just write and write and write and type and type and type. I admire those people. I don't want to change them.
Yeah.
I'm always saying to those people who love writing, I'm just here to fill in gaps if you need, but you just continue on with your art form because it is art. But for some people, most people that I encounter, the process of writing their thoughts down, to do the excavation by themselves is difficult. It's
Yeah.
difficult for me. So this idea of collaboration and accountability and partnership and expansiveness and someone who's my coach, my cheerleader, my accountability partner, my expansive visionary is something that when I've talked to seasoned writers, they're like, where were you 10 years ago when I was struggling? It took me 5 years to write my first book, right? I could have
Yeah.
used that. I could have used those tools to bring that story out. So I love working with people who want to write, who want to express, who have a story to share, but they just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And I'm a means to get there, to accelerate it, but to do it in a really powerful, connecting way.
Yeah.
So I would say for someone like you too, like your dancing, your expression through movement, to me is a form of art that it's natural, it's easy, it just is you expressing yourself through movement. Some it's painting, some it's music, some it's writing. Mine, like you, when I have thoughts, it's easier for me to grab my phone and just record it because by the time I get home and try to write it down, it's gone. But when I record it, it's the auditory, but it's the listening. There's something about the voice that I just feel like covers a lot of other senses as well. The space I'm in allows that expression to come out. So it's just finding where is your favorite way to express and tap into that. So once I work with people and explain what I do, they're like, this is how I want to write my book. This is how I want to get this done. So so that makes it fun too, because it's just they see that there's another path than having to sit down. I'm going to write my 1,000 words or my 5,000 words this week. It's like we can get 15,000 words done in an hour.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know you back when I was writing my book, but Shauna was my book doula, and I need yeah, it's so important. And
having
when
someone go through it with you, yeah, is
yeah.
so huge.
And hearing you just like talking about it, you truly have that divine masculine of holding the container to help people feel safe in it. But then also, like you said, the magic happens. That's like the what I think of the divine feminine of just like letting whatever comes out and finding the hidden gems and just but it sounds like you're able to do both with them in such a beautiful and powerful way.
Yeah, and that just has just come from doing it. The one thing I was explaining to someone recently is like, how do you come up with your questions over the course of your sessions? Because nothing is really scripted on my end. I'll have an idea of like a theme or a topic, but I would say 90% of what's coming from me is coming from you. So it'll be something you said. It could be a phrase you use that like, I feel, again, going back to my massage work, I feel that intuitive nudge, like, oh, that's a golden nugget. And I'll just like put like an energetic pin in that. And there might be multiple pins going on. So sometimes I need to kind of just make a bullet. I'm listening, but I'm writing it at the same time. And when there's a pause, I'll be like, Phoebe, I want to reflect on something you said a little bit ago and go back to that. That shows reflection to them that I'm paying attention, but it just enhances that piece of the story so much that being able to tap into people and truly listen and find those little nuggets that can be more places to expand and grow from has really been something for me that I even enjoy doing, like when I'm listening to a podcast or watching a YouTube of a TED Talk or even reading a book, there'll be things that I'll underline. Like there's a reason why that really hits me, and I want to explore that deeper. So, so again, it's kind of combining that, like we said in the beginning, that curious mind with that attentive listening, and just being tuned into both.
And we're going to get to see some of that magic on our next podcast because you're
Okay,
me.
beautiful. Can't wait.
Did you know that?
I did know that. Yes, I'm not prepared, but we're just going to make it happen.
Spoiler alert,
Spoiler
yes.
alert.
We decided that Phoebe needed to be interviewed. So we thought the king of questions, the king of questions.
Yeah,
Right to
I'll come up with a few just to, some basic ones. Like, what do you do?
who are you? What
Who
do you
are
do?
you?
Oh my
That
God.
that's actually a very deep question. Who are you?
It is,
When you start stripping it away, it could be a really powerful question.
for sure.
And so that's something I would probably want to leave people with is just, what are the questions that either you've been wanting to ask yourself, but you've been avoiding? What are questions that when you think of the world, things that either you're curious about, struggling with, whatever it is, like just create a question and just sit with it. Just give it some time and attention and see what comes up.
And I actually have your other book in my bedroom, but you have a full book of questions for people. So if they get stumped, let's talk about that book really quick and where
Sure.
they find these books and working with you and all the fabulousness that you do in the world.
Well, that book really came about because I had so many people saying, you need to have a book of questions. And that talk about another period of imposter syndrome. I'm like, there are a million books out there. You could go to any bookstore and find like a journal that's just question after question. But when I really sat with it, I thought, what are some of the questions that I've used in my storytelling work? But I would say the majority of those were questions that I've asked myself. So it was really written as kind of a self-reflective practice for myself. In fact, I have my own copy of my book with a journal that is specifically designed to answer those questions. I was doing pretty good getting through them. I'm probably just about halfway done with the book, but the journal is just me answering my own questions.
Okay.
And when I'm done with it, I'm thinking, what can I do with these answers to tie into the questions?
Well, can I say something else? I'm just
Sure.
curious if you go back and if you ask the questions again and see if they've shifted over because
Totally. Well,
for a period of time, right?
that's the exercise. I think that it's something that you could spend a year with this book of questions, and then at the end of the year, start it over again. And
Yeah.
then each year, as we grow and as we evolve, see which questions shift and which questions had weight last year that now don't have as much weight this year because I've kind of figured it out. There's chapters on goals and life's purpose and meaning and legacy and things. And yeah, I think that the whole idea is to not just sit with the answer that comes out today, but maybe see what's the answer tomorrow and next week and next year, and see how are your answers evolving just as we do. So I always say this too with my work with people is that what comes out of you is the truth today. Doesn't mean it has to be the truth that gets published. So I'm really just about just getting it out and then examining it, and then obviously through polish and edit and fine tuning, then it can be the finished work that gets shared. But questions like these, like the book that you have, it literally could just be like, if you're just in a low energy vibration today answering questions, I can guarantee you in a high vibration energy, it's going to be a different answer. So don't just take it at face value. Use it as a tool to be like, interesting what came out today.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to get that question in a week and see how much it shifted.
Yeah. I think
It's,
do you have a daily check-in one or am I just doing it as a daily check-in one? I think you have some daily, like I think you actually have a section of
there's a
daily.
section that's just more daily check-ins, yeah. But I think any of them can be like, I specifically put it in themes to be like, find a
Yeah.
theme that resonates with you and focus on that. So there's themes on body image, there's themes on purpose and meaning in life. It could be family and relationships. So they're broken into themes that you don't have to follow it from page 1 to page 250. Just just open the book up and find a question that speaks to you. That's always fun. Kind of like your
Yeah.
tarot cards, just like find a question, be like, that's my question today that I'm going to sit with.
That's actually what I've been doing because that's part of one of my morning rituals now is I open it up and see. And then I think I shared with you too, my grandmother, I'm here at my grandmother's place, and when we were sitting out on the screen porch and we were thinking, what should we talk about? I was like, let me pull out this book of questions.
It's like a game. It's
It
literally,
is.
I mean, I could see it being, I've had people say, you should turn this into like a dinner table card game.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother story where I've actually taken questions and have done dinner gatherings and
Mhm.
workshops where people have a
Oh,
question in front of them. That's always fun to just learn about people and to just the spontaneous answers that arise from people. But it's a wonderful tool to connect because it's a question that anyone can answer. It's not designed to just be for you, the person who's being asked, but it's a great way for you after answering to say, what about you, Greg?
Mhm.
And so whenever the tables are turned on me, which I tend to resist because I'm like, I'm the one asking the questions here, right?
I
But
know.
anytime I've done so where that came from before Speakeasy became about really storytelling and all, is a program that I called guided vocal journaling. It's the same concept of just having a question at the top of your journal page and writing your answer. It's just having the question and speaking it. And it could be to yourself through a notes app, it could be through meditation. But I love the idea of bringing one, two, three, a room full of people together and kind of do what you and your grandmother did, like turn it into a connecting exercise. Again, you don't know where it's going to go, what
Mhm.
people's answers are going to be in any moment. And people that you think you know really well, I've always found like, I had no idea you felt that way, or I didn't know that about you. So there's always this opportunity to learn and grow even with people that we are close to.
Yeah.
And that's just, I mean, there's just a multitude of questions that can be turned into these connecting opportunities. And that's all it is. It's an opportunity to connect.
Mhm. Is there something that I haven't asked you about yet that you want to share?
Um, well, knowing that you are the ultimate nomad queen, and I have been venturing back into this idea of gathering people together in a retreat type
Mhm.
setting. I've done so much work lately on just what would that look like? What would I, you know? So I think the question for me, because I've done them before, I haven't done a retreat to that type of extent in a couple of years. So I think the question, why haven't I, is one that because I think there's probably a lot of people out there like me who they can see themselves hosting, they can see the environment and see the people, but like what's holding you back, from venturing into that space? And it could be someone who's a seasoned coach or guide or, you know, but it also could be people who this is something new that maybe scares me a little bit to do. I don't know. I think that for me, in answering that question, it's more about confidence
Mhm.
and getting back to that feeling of gathering people together again with a shared mission and a shared cause.
Mhm.
I'm also feeling very much aligned with this idea of where we go also has as much importance as to why we're there. So it's finding the right location.
Mhm.
So I've been spending a lot of time with it. And I will say, since meeting you, it's opened my eyes to stepping back into that realm of my work that I truly enjoyed doing, but I backed away from.
Mm.
And now it's just, the possibilities are definitely exciting.
They are, and we're planting seeds.
We are planting seeds, and you've been tremendously helpful with that.
I love it. So I'm asking this question since we've been back. We've taken many little seasons throughout the space in between. We've had spaces in between the in between. And my new question is just simply that, what is the space in between mean for you right now?
I think it's just stepping into the fullness of what my potentiality is. I think I've been stuck in this space between trying to be an expert and now moving into this guide and mentor, and just what does that look like, you know? And I would say in that expert mode of just trying to build a business, to build a sustainable business. And now moving into one that is just free flowing, and it just, the energy, it's like catching a wave and just surfing through it all. So I'd say my space between that is stepping away from entrepreneurial business building into
Mhm.
more of the fullness of living to my true purpose and meaning in life. Getting away from story producing and being more into story transformation. And that
Mhm.
transformation can take many forms. Again, the book is a byproduct. It could be a byproduct. It's not the end. And I think I was living in this space of I help people write books. I've
Mhm.
abandoned that space now. I don't
Mhm.
want that to be my identity
Got it.
anymore. So my space between is venturing more into the fullness of what, and I said this before, it's hard to turn this off, this level of curiosity and attention I have with people. So I feel like my work is a 24/7 job, you know? So how do I stay in that energy while moving into more of this guide, more of this, I don't know, I guess I think of it as like going on a Camino walk and just bringing people to say, hey, come walk with me, you know? Whoever decides to come, it's the right people that are there. And just allowing that to just take shape. And maybe two turns into four and turns into 50, turns into 100, turns into, it just naturally grows. But all I'm doing is walking
Mhm.
because I'm moving in a direction that feels aligned with me
Mhm.
and people are following.
Mhm.
So I don't know if any of that made sense. I'm just literally just channeling right now.
I
But
love it. That is the beauty of the space in between.
it's kind of this unknown, but it's
It
also like,
is. It's beautiful. It doesn't have to make sense. We're just there. We're flowing.
yeah, yeah.
I love it.
It's getting to make more sense now, but it's
It was,
very,
it made sense.
yeah, it's exciting.
And if people want to work with you, Greg, or want to just continue the journey with you in some way, what's the best way to follow?
I mean, I'd say, I'm not very active on social media, but if there is a social media platform, Facebook is probably the best. Just type in my name, Greg, two G's, Gonzalez with an S. The Speakeasy Method, anything speakeasy to Greg is you're gonna find me. I have a couple of things that are built out that I haven't really shared yet. So like a Substack, I've got, other things that I want to allow my work to evolve into more of like my artistic expression of the work,
Mm.
but nothing that I would feel confident sharing just yet. But I would
Mm.
just say, even if someone Googled me, they'll probably find me. And the speakeasymethod.co is my website.
Awesome. Ooh, I can't wait for all these things that are revealed. They're in the space in between right now.
Very much in the space in between.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm so happy that we did
I
this.
am
Thank
too. Grateful to you for the time.
Yeah, and we will be back, and the tables will be turned,
Yep,
as they
we're gonna
say.
shift
Oh no,
microphones.
who am I? Oh my gosh.
The Inquisition begins.
Ah, thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Phoebe. This was fun.
I appreciate you.